remove from your consciousness the idea that it is hard. It is not. What you're simply doing is shifting time from a less valuable activity to a more valuable activity. Think about it from the perspective of value, right? Somebody said, for those of us who struggle with feeling overwhelmed by the vast amount of information available, can you suggest strategies for becoming more discerning about the quality and source of learning materials? How can we reframe the concept of failure in the context of learning? That second question sounds like a jam question. Let me answer. Let's do the first one. Can you suggest strategies for becoming more discerning about the quality and source of learning materials? Mrs. O, any thoughts on that?
I would like you to answer that.
Okay. All right.
I'll take the second question.
Okay. I honestly think that it is, I think we all know when we see rubbish. I don't know how else to say. Let me explain what I mean. If I go on social media and all somebody is telling me about is what somebody wore and what somebody didn't wear, and it's not that I'm in the fashion business where I'm trying to understand how people receive certain kind of styles and things like that, that's clearly not a good use of my time as far as my intellectual health is concerned. If I'm doing it for a few minutes to relax, maybe. But if that's my constant consumption and it's gossip, I think we all know that already has a problem, right? But for instance, if you hear that one organization just launched XYZ, right? One of the things you could do is you're looking at that story and saying, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how they were thinking about it. I wonder what happened here. I wonder, you're looking at the issues, not all the drama around it. Yeah, you hear of an Elon Musk that has, done this and that, SpaceX and all of those kinds of things. Even if you're not interested in space, just the idea that interesting guy. So I wonder how he thinks. In other words, you're constantly asking yourself questions, curious questions. So I guess the short answer to it is that build your curiosity about important things. Build your curiosity about important things. AI is everybody's friend now. You can know more than ever, right? Let me tell you what's going to happen with the advent of generative AI. I can bet you that some people's minds are going to get duller and some people's minds are going to get sharper. The ones that will get sharper, it is because of the kinds of questions they are asking. All the Meta AI, all the Gemini, if you don't even know those exist already, you're already behind schedule. So please go and look for your ChatGPT. Everybody knows ChatGPT. And make the habit of asking interesting questions. How does the sun work? Why does the moon do like this and that? Right? If it tells you something you don't think it makes sense, tell it that I don't think it makes sense. Right? If you say something else, say, I will investigate that. I guarantee you that you can build your mind with those easy tools, but you can also kill it. It's a question of what kinds of questions you ask. But don't take it as an arduous task. Take it as something interesting. If you're interested, even if it's fashion you're interested in, and you ask a question about the fashion industry, what makes the fashion industry work? Those are questions that are stimulating your mind, not what did Beyonce wear yesterday. Those are both fashion questions. One is totally irrelevant to your life. The other one makes a difference in your thought process, right? Mrs. O, how can we reframe the concept of failure? I think we're going to start wrapping up shortly. Go ahead.
When I read that, I remember the book I read several years ago, and the title of the book, I found very interesting, was Failing Forward. And the concept that was explored in the book, failure is not defined in the creative world the way failure is defined in perhaps other settings.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a famous quote. Who was it that discovered electricity? It was how many times?
99 times.
99, 900? I don't know how many times you tried.
999 times or something like that.
Yeah. And then finally. Now, imagine if he was afraid of failure, he would have stopped at 150. But he kept pushing, he kept pressing it. And that is how you push the boundaries. You push That's how you create. That's how you invent. You have to be ready to fail. And I think one of the things that you also got to understand when I say reframe the concept of failure is separate failure from your identity.
Yeah.
So you have to know who you are and so comfortable in your identity that you are uniquely, beautifully made, created. You are a fine specimen of a human being.
Yep.
There's no duplicate. You are an original. So you are comfortable. You love who you are. There's nothing you want to change. Then your actions are separate from that identity. So you can fail, and it's not Insikat that is failing. It's that it is that event, it is that activity that failed. It is not you that has lost something. So you don't depreciate, you don't lose value. In fact, if you harness your failed attempts, you will use it to now create something spectacular. Let me give an I'm trying to think of an example of because I failed a few times. But and then failure, this is where I'm going to close. Failure also may help redirect you in the right direction that you need to go. So you need to begin to interpret failure as I'm not meant, sometimes it's closure. You're not meant to be doing something because you're meant to be doing something else. So for example, if you apply to a college and you don't get in, it may just mean that that is not where you're meant to go, because going back to school and going to specific colleges is not always about the program or what you're going to learn. Sometimes about the people you're going to connect with.
Yeah.
So if you're supposed to connect with a certain person on a specific program, that is the school you will get into. You will not get into the school that will not get you to that person. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to begin to interpret things that do not go well, defined as failure, lack of success. You have to see that it may be trying to shape you, point you in different other direction. Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. Thomas Edison, the light bulb, 1,000 unsuccessful times, and then he finally got it. My God, I don't know how many people will have done that.
Yeah, and let me also quickly add to that. Recently, we had Tony Fadell. Tony Fadell is the inventor of the iPod. He was in Nigeria recently, and we had him, he was over at LBS for a conversation. And, amongst other things, there's a book he just wrote. It's called Build. Yeah, I think that everyone that is interested in doing anything significant should get that book. Of course, there are other books. Because it's on this question of failure that that was raised. I haven't finished reading it, and I hadn't, because as soon as I got it, I was going to go to see my daughter in Abuja, and I took it to give it to her, because he had said in the conversation some of the things, how he handled failure. My daughter said, I've heard it said a lot of times that, no, they learn from failure. And she's been like, what nonsense? What do you mean learn from failure? But that was the first time that she understood what that really meant, right? Because this guy put it in context. So if you can, I think the book is on Amazon. I'm not getting any commissions for talking about it. So
what's the title of the book again? I'm not sure everybody got it.
It's called Build. Build. It's just called Build by Tony Fadell.
Build, B-U-I-L-D.
Yes, by Tony Fadell, F-A-D-E-L-L. Right. Fantastic. Just a few things I read in it. Fantastic book. Yep. And you'll have a completely different perspective about failure, amongst other things that he has there, decision-making, all that and all that, right? Please, before we go, any suggestion on mental activities we can engage in to promote prompt decision-making? Now, we don't have a lot of time to answer that question. My core is actually decision-making, and we can take a whole day to answer that question. But let me just say to you, keep your brain active.